As the humans landed and advanced, Ilara felt a mix of anger and sadness. She had once believed in unity, but now she stood ready to fight for her people. The betrayal had unleashed chaos, and she knew the war for Xanthara's future was about to begin. Ilara steeled herself for the conflict ahead, understanding that this was only the beginning of a struggle that would change the fate of both races forever. The peaceful alliance she once cherished had turned into a battleground of loyalty, trust, and vengeance. Now she would fight not only for her people but for the hope of restoring what had been lost. The gathering storm. As the sun rose over Xanthara, a tense silence hung in the air. The once vibrant planet now felt charged with anxiety. Princess Ilara stood atop the castle's highest tower, gazing at the horizon, where the human ships had landed. Their arrival signified more than just a military presence. It was a declaration of war against everything she held dear. The sound of footsteps behind her broke the stillness. Kalen, her most trusted advisor, joined her, his face etched with concern. "The warriors are ready, Princess. They await your orders," he said, his voice steady but laced with urgency. Ilara turned to him, her heart heavy. "I never wanted this, Kalen. We could have worked together, built a future side by side. But now," her voice trailed off, the weight of her emotions almost overwhelming. "We must act decisively. If we allow the humans to take control of our minds, they will have power over us, and our people will suffer," Kalen replied. "But we must also prepare for the possibility of negotiation. Not all humans are against us." Ilara considered his words. "Perhaps there are still those who wish for peace, but we cannot show weakness. We must be ready for battle." With a determined nod, Ilara summoned the council once more. They gathered in the grand hall, where the tension in the air was palpable. The council members were warriors and strategists, their faces grim and resolute. "Today, we prepare for a fight," Ilara announced, her voice strong. "But I also wish to send a message. We will not be intimidated. We will defend our home and our people. If there are those among the humans who wish to negotiate, they may have that chance. However, we will not stand idly by while they threaten us." A murmur of agreement spread through the council. Kalen stood and addressed the room. "Let us devise our battle strategy. We have the advantage of knowing our land, and we must use it to our benefit. We will fortify the crystal mines and set traps along their path." With their plan taking shape, the council members dispersed, each heading to their assigned tasks. Ilara felt a surge of hope as she prepared for the fight ahead. They were united, and together, they would protect their home. As the day wore on, the skies darkened, mirroring the tension below. The Xantharians fortified their defenses, erecting barriers and traps around the crystal mines. Ilara moved among her people, encouraging them and sharing her vision of hope and strength. "Remember," she said to a group of warriors preparing their weapons, "we fight not just for ourselves, but for our future. We will not allow betrayal to define us. We will show them the strength of Xanthara." The warriors cheered, their spirits lifting. Ilara felt a sense of unity amongst her people. They were ready to stand together, no matter the odds. As twilight descended, Ilara and Kalen gathered once more, this time with a small team of elite warriors. They would scout the human camp and gather information. Ilara knew that understanding the enemy was crucial to their strategy. The group moved silently through the forest, shadows dancing among the trees. Ilara led them with determination, her heart pounding in her chest. They approached the human camp, where fires flickered and voices echoed through the night. Peeking through the foliage, Ilara's eyes widened at the sight before her. The humans were indeed preparing for war, but she also noticed something else. Among the soldiers were humans who looked weary, disillusioned, and hesitant. It seemed not all were eager for this conflict. "Look," Kalen whispered, pointing to a group of humans gathered around a fire. Some of them seemed troubled by the plan. Ilara squinted to get a better look. She recognized one of the figures, a human named David, who had previously visited Zenthara with goodwill. Ilara had spoken to him about their cultures, and she sensed a bond of trust between them. Perhaps he could be a voice of reason among his people. "Let's get closer," she said, urging her warriors to remain silent. They crept closer, staying hidden in the shadows, listening intently. "I don't understand why we're doing this," David said, his voice low but filled with frustration. "The Zentharians have done nothing wrong. We should negotiate, not fight. Are you with us or against us?" A soldier snapped back. "They're sitting on a gold mine. We can't let them keep it." "But at what cost?" David replied, his voice rising. "If we destroy them, we lose a potential ally. This isn't the way." Ilara felt a spark of hope. David's words showed that not all humans were blinded by greed. If she could reach him, perhaps she could sway some of the humans back towards peace. "Let's go back," Ilara whispered to her warriors. "I need to speak to David." They retreated back into the trees, and Ilara's heart raced. She had a plan. She would send a message to David, a way to express her desire for dialogue. The battle might be inevitable, but if there was even a chance for peace, she would grasp it. That night, as the stars twinkled above, Ilara penned a message on a piece of soft Zenthara cloth. She knew it was risky, but she had to take that chance. She entrusted one of her warriors to deliver the message to David discreetly. As she prepared for the battles ahead, Ilara hoped that this act of courage could spark a change. The winds of chaos were strong, but she would not let the darkness consume her world without fighting for what was right. With her heart set on peace, she steeled herself for the storm that was about to break over Zenthara. A message of hope. The next morning, Ilara woke to the sounds of warriors preparing for battle. The atmosphere was charged with a mixture of determination and fear. As she walked through the camp, she saw the faces of her people. Some were eager for the fight, while others were filled with doubt. This was not just about victory, it was about survival. After the sun rose, she gathered her elite team to discuss the situation. Kalen stood at the front, his arms crossed, looking serious. "The humans are preparing to advance. We have little time left." Ilara took a deep breath, steeling herself for what she had to say. "Before we engage, we need to give David my message. If there is a chance to sway even a few of them towards peace, we must take it." Kalen raised an eyebrow. "And what if they see this as a sign of weakness? Or a sign of strength?" Ilara replied firmly. "We can be strong in our desire for peace. We can show them that we will fight to protect our home, but we will also fight for understanding." The group exchanged glances, some nodding in agreement. Ilara felt a renewed sense of hope. Perhaps there was a path forward, one that did not lead to bloodshed. With a plan in place, Ilara sent her fastest runner to deliver the message to David. She hoped he would read it and understand her intent. In the meantime, she ordered her warriors to make final preparations for defense. Hours passed as tension grew thicker in the air. Ilara's heart raced as she paced back and forth in her tent. Would David respond? Would he be able to convince his fellow soldiers to reconsider their course of action? Finally, just as the sun began to dip below the horizon, the runner returned. Breathless and wide-eyed, he rushed into the tent. "Princess, I have news." Ilara's heart pounded. "What did he say?" "He read your message. He wants to meet you tonight, under the old oak tree at the edge of the forest. He believes there are others who will listen." The runner replied, his excitement contagious. A wave of relief washed over Ilara. "Good. We must act quickly, then. Gather a few trusted warriors to accompany me. We cannot show any signs of weakness, but we will not go unarmed." As night fell, Ilara and her team made their way to the old oak tree, its massive trunk a silent witness to the events that would unfold. The moon cast a silvery glow, illuminating the path ahead. With each step, Ilara felt both nervous and hopeful. When they arrived, David was already there, waiting under the sprawling branches. He looked up, his expression a mix of relief and concern. "You came," he said softly. "I wasn't sure if you would." Ilara stepped forward, her voice steady. "I am here because I believe in the possibility of peace. We have suffered betrayal, but I want to find a way to avoid further bloodshed." David nodded, his brow furrowed. "I understand. Many of us are conflicted. We were sent here to secure the resources of your planet, but I don't believe this is the right path. The humans in my unit, they are not all like the ones who came for war." Ilara felt a flicker of hope. "If you can speak to them, perhaps we can create a dialogue. But we need to be careful. My people are on high alert, and if they see us talking, they might misunderstand." "I will try," David replied earnestly. "But I need you to trust me too. I can speak to my commander. If he sees that we can negotiate, he might agree. But it has to be convincing." Ilara took a deep breath, weighing her next words. "We can offer terms. We want to protect our resources, but are willing to share technology and knowledge. We can work together, but not under the threat of destruction." David smiled, a flicker of hope igniting in his eyes. "I think I can convince them. I will make sure they know that you are not our enemy, and that we can build something better together." Just then, a rustling in the bushes caught their attention. Ilara instinctively reached for her weapon, but David raised his hand. "Wait, it's just my friend Leela. She has been following me to help." Leela stepped out from behind the trees, looking nervous but determined. "I couldn't let you go alone, David. If you're going to convince them, we need to make sure everyone knows you're speaking for peace." Ilara recognized Leela as one of David's closest allies. "Then we must all work together. The more voices we have for peace, the stronger our message will be." As they spoke, a sense of camaraderie began to form between them. Ilara felt as if she had allies among the humans, a realization that both thrilled and terrified her. They were stepping into unknown territory. "Let's meet again tomorrow night," Ilara suggested. "We can prepare our message and decide how to approach your commander. Together, we can show them that we are not the monsters they believe us to be." The three of them exchanged determined looks. They would fight for peace, not just for their worlds but for the future that lay ahead. As they parted ways, Ilara's heart felt lighter. She had taken the first step towards breaking the cycle of distrust and betrayal. The winds of change were beginning to stir, and for the first time, she could see a glimmer of hope amidst the chaos. The battle ahead would be challenging, but with unity they might just create a future where both Xantharians and humans could thrive together. The turning tide. As the dawn broke, a new day began with the promise of change. Ilara felt a mix of anxiety and hope as she gathered her warriors to share the news about her meeting with David and Leela. The flickering flame of possibility ignited in their hearts, though some still bore skepticism. In the center of the camp, Ilara stood before her gathered warriors. "I know many of you feel betrayed. Trust has been broken, and our enemies stand at our doorstep. But I believe we have a chance to change this. David, a human soldier, is willing to help us negotiate a peaceful solution." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Kalen stepped forward, concern etched across his face. "How can we trust them? They've already shown they will attack. What if this is just a trick?" Ilara met his gaze, her voice steady. "This is a risk we must take. If we can sway even a fraction of their forces, we can create a coalition for peace, but we need to be strategic and ready for anything. Then we should prepare for battle, just in case," Kalen suggested, his expression serious. "If they are not sincere, we need to protect our home." "Agreed," Ilara replied. "But we will prepare for both peace and war. We will strengthen our defenses while also reaching out to David and his allies. We need to show strength, but we cannot lose sight of the hope for a better future." As her warriors began to strategize, Ilara felt a surge of determination. She would not let fear dictate their choices. The lessons of her past taught her that strength could coexist with compassion. The following night, they gathered again beneath the ancient oak. David and Leela arrived, their expressions serious but hopeful. "We've been speaking to others in our unit," David said, his voice low. "Some of them are willing to listen, but we need something concrete to present to our commander. Can you outline what you can offer?" Ilara nodded. "We can share our knowledge of renewable energy and agriculture. We can trade resources, not take them by force. We can even provide safe passage for your soldiers to explore our world, to see that we are not the enemy." Leela's eyes lit up. "That could work. If they see that you are willing to share, it might convince them to reconsider their approach. But we need to be careful. Rumors spread quickly among our ranks." As they discussed the finer points of their proposal, Ilara felt the bond between them strengthen. She was no longer just an alien princess fighting for her people. She was an ambassador for peace, willing to forge a path that had once seemed impossible. "Tonight, we will approach my commander," David said, determination shining in his eyes. "We'll present your ideas and see if we can reach an agreement. But we have to be prepared for rejection." "We will be," Ilara replied. "And if that happens, we'll have to prepare for battle. But I believe we can sway them." As they parted ways, a sense of purpose filled Ilara's heart. They had taken a significant step toward peace, but the road ahead remained fraught with uncertainty. She returned to her camp, her mind racing with possibilities. The following day, tension hung in the air as the Xantharians continued their preparations. Ilara observed her warriors sharpening their weapons and fortifying their defenses, a stark contrast to the discussions she had shared with David and Leela. The weight of both hope and dread pressed upon her. Hours later, as the sun began to set, David returned. His expression was grave. "We were met with resistance. The commander is skeptical of your intentions, and many of my fellow soldiers believe that your people are a threat." Ilara's heart sank, but she forced herself to stay composed. "What can we do to change their minds?" "We need to show them that we are willing to stand together," David replied. "A demonstration of unity might shift their perspective. If they see you, the alien princess, standing side by side with me and Leela, it might help." Ilara nodded slowly, contemplating his words. "A show of unity. Yes, that could work. We can stage a meeting where our people can see us cooperating, working together for a common cause. It might make the humans more open to dialogue." "That's risky," Callan interjected, his brow furrowed. "What if it backfires?" "If we do nothing, we risk losing everything," Ilara countered. "We need to be bold if we want to change our fate." David looked at her, admiration in his eyes. "Then let's organize this meeting. We can invite soldiers from both sides. If we can show that we are not enemies, we might break through the walls of distrust." As they made plans, Ilara felt a wave of determination wash over her. They were on the brink of something monumental, a chance to rewrite the narrative of their people's histories. Over the next few days, Ilara and David worked tirelessly to organize the meeting. They spread the word, inviting soldiers from both sides to gather at the ancient oak tree, a symbol of strength and endurance. When the day finally arrived, Ilara stood at the base of the tree, her heart racing with anticipation. Would they come? Would the humans agree to join them? As the sun dipped below the horizon, the sounds of footsteps echoed through the clearing. Ilara's breath caught in her throat as she saw David leading a group of soldiers. Their expressions were cautious but curious. Behind them followed a contingent of Xantharians, their eyes filled with apprehension. Ilara stepped forward, her heart pounding. "Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming. Today we stand together not as enemies, but as beings seeking understanding." David stood beside her, a reassuring presence. "We want to show you that we can share our knowledge and resources, that we can build a future together. Let us work towards peace, not destruction." The atmosphere was tense as both sides looked at one another. Ilara could feel the weight of their stares, the distrust that lingered in the air. But she also sensed a flicker of hope. As the discussions began, Ilara realized that change was possible. They had taken a monumental step forward, and now it was up to both sides to decide whether they would move toward a future of collaboration or spiral deeper into conflict. With every word exchanged, the tide began to shift. It was time for both Xantharians and humans to write a new story, one of unity, hope, and shared strength. And at that moment, beneath the ancient oak, Ilara felt the winds of change blowing toward a brighter future. The storm brews. As the discussions progressed beneath the ancient oak, Ilara felt a sense of optimism, a glimmer of hope shining brightly amid the shadows of doubt. The initial tension began to ease, and she watched as soldiers from both sides cautiously engaged in conversation. David's presence beside her was a constant reassurance, reminding her that they were not alone in this endeavor. The Xantharians shared their knowledge of renewable energy and advanced agricultural practices, while David and his fellow soldiers talked about human technology and tactics. The more they exchanged ideas, the clearer it became that both races had much to offer each other. However, even amid this burgeoning understanding, Ilara sensed an undercurrent of discontent. Some soldiers from both sides remained skeptical, whispering among themselves and casting wary glances. The voices of dissent were growing louder, and Ilara knew that the path to peace was fraught with peril. As the meeting progressed, a loud shout interrupted their discussions. A group of humans, led by a soldier named Marcus, stepped forward. His face was red with anger, and his voice carried a sense of authority that demanded attention. "What are we doing here?" Marcus shouted, pointing an accusing finger at Ilara. "These aliens are nothing but a threat. How can we trust them? They've shown us their true colors. This is treason." Ilara's heart sank. She could feel the tension snap like a taut string. David stepped forward, his face hardening. "Marcus, this isn't about treason. It's about survival. We need to find common ground before it's too late." "Common ground?" Marcus scoffed. "You think these creatures will ever see us as equals? They've invaded our space, killed our soldiers, and now you want us to shake hands. They will stab us in the back the moment we turn away." The crowd stirred, and murmurs of agreement rippled through the humans. Ilara could feel the weight of their distrust pressing down on her like a heavy cloak, but she refused to back down. "Marcus," she said, her voice steady and firm, "I understand your fear. You've been taught to see us as enemies, but we are not the monsters you think we are. We want to build a future where both our peoples can thrive. The past is filled with pain, but it doesn't have to dictate our future." "Easy for you to say," Marcus retorted, his eyes blazing with anger. "You stand there in your royal finery, pretending to be a diplomat, while we've lost friends and family because of your kind." Ilara felt the heat of the crowd's anger, but she pressed on. "I'm not asking you to forget the past. I'm asking you to consider the future. Do you want more bloodshed, more loss? Or do you want to stand together against a common enemy?" David moved closer to Marcus, his tone urgent. "We all want peace, but we can't achieve it by letting anger and hatred guide our actions. We have to take a leap of faith. Trust can be rebuilt, but it requires effort from both sides." Marcus hesitated, the fire in his eyes flickering. "And what if you're wrong? What if this is a trap?" Ilara stepped forward, her heart pounding. "Then let me prove it to you. I will stand by your side and fight with you if that is what it takes. If I fail, then you will have every right to see me as your enemy. But if I succeed, perhaps we can find a way to end this conflict together." The crowd fell silent, all eyes now on Marcus. He looked at Ilara, a mixture of skepticism and contemplation playing across his face. After a tense moment, he nodded slowly, though uncertainty still lingered in his eyes. "Very well," he said, his voice quieter now. "You'll have your chance. But know this, if you betray us, I will not hesitate to take you down myself." Ilara nodded, a mix of relief and determination flooding through her. "I understand, and I won't let you down." With the tension easing, the discussions resumed. Ilara and David worked tirelessly to address the concerns raised by Marcus and other skeptics. They presented concrete plans for collaboration, emphasizing mutual benefits and showcasing the potential for a future of shared prosperity. As the day wore on, hope flickered in the eyes of the gathered soldiers. The Xantharians demonstrated their advanced agricultural techniques, while the humans explained their technological advancements. Ideas began to flow freely, and the atmosphere shifted from one of suspicion to cautious optimism. But in the back of Ilara's mind, a nagging worry persisted. Though they were forging bonds, there were still those among them who believed in a path of violence. As the sun dipped below the horizon, she couldn't shake the feeling that the storm was still brewing. Later that evening, as the stars began to twinkle in the darkening sky, Ilara and David found a moment of quiet. They stood together, gazing out at the forest, deep in thought. "Do you think we've made a difference?" David asked, breaking the silence. "I hope so," Ilara replied. "But I know that not everyone will accept this change. There are still those who want war, who thrive on chaos." David sighed, the weight of responsibility evident on his face. "And what if they act before we can prove our intentions?" As the tension began to dissipate, Ilara felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps this was the turning point they needed. But deep inside, she remained wary. The seeds of doubt had been sown, and she feared that the shadows of mistrust would not easily fade. Over the next few days, the soldiers from both sides worked tirelessly to prepare for the joint training exercise. They practiced maneuvers, shared tactics, and built a sense of community. Ilara and David put their hearts into fostering an environment of collaboration, hoping to diminish the lingering fear and distrust. However, the unease never fully left Ilara. She spent her nights awake, contemplating their situation. Were they truly moving toward peace, or was this merely a facade hiding the storm that was about to erupt? She sensed that someone within their ranks was still plotting, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. On the day of the training exercise, excitement buzzed through the air. Soldiers gathered, eager to demonstrate their skills and forge connections. Ilara stood at the forefront, watching as humans and Xantharians began to mingle and collaborate. It was a sight that brought her some comfort. As the exercises began, the atmosphere shifted from tension to excitement. The soldiers worked together, laughing and encouraging one another. Ilara felt her heart swell with pride. This was what she had envisioned, an alliance built on mutual respect and understanding. But just as things seemed to be improving, a sudden explosion shook the ground. Ilara's heart raced as chaos erupted. Soldiers scattered, looking for cover. She instinctively grabbed David's arm, fear gripping her. "What just happened?" David shouted over the chaos. "I don't know," Ilara replied, scanning the horizon for the source of the explosion. Smoke billowed in the distance, and the sounds of gunfire erupted. As panic spread through the crowd, Ilara felt a sinking feeling in her gut. This wasn't just an accident. Someone had sabotaged their efforts, and it was time to find out who was behind the attack before it was too late. The reckoning. The sound of gunfire echoed through the air, punctuated by the distant rumble of explosions. Ilara's heart raced as chaos engulfed the training ground. Soldiers scrambled for cover, and the once united front began to fracture under the weight of fear and confusion. She tightened her grip on David's arm, her mind racing to comprehend the unfolding disaster. "Stay close," David shouted over the cacophony, his eyes scanning the area for threats. "We need to regroup and find out what's happening." Ilara nodded, her mind racing. They had worked so hard to build trust, to forge a partnership between humans and Xantharians. Now it felt like everything was crumbling in an instant. As they made their way through the chaos, Ilara's thoughts were consumed with questions. Who had done this? Was it a rogue faction? Or was someone among them a traitor? They reached a small hill that offered a vantage point over the training area. From there, Ilara could see the source of the chaos. A group of armed assailants, clad in black armor, was attacking the soldiers from both sides. They moved with precision and ruthlessness, taking advantage of the disarray to wreak havoc. "Who are they?" David shouted, disbelief evident in his voice. "I don't know," Ilara replied, her voice thick with urgency. But they're not Xantharians. We need to warn everyone. They quickly descended the hill, shouting for the soldiers to take cover and regroup. We're under attack. Form defensive positions. Ilara yelled, her voice carrying over the din. The training exercise had devolved into a battle for survival. As the soldiers rallied together, Ilara and David worked alongside them, organizing their defenses. Ilara could see the fear in the eyes of both humans and Xantharians, but she also saw determination. They were not going to let this assault tear them apart. On my command, David bellowed, his voice steady. We will push them back together. Ilara felt a surge of pride as she watched the soldiers unite, setting aside their differences in the face of a common enemy. But doubt crept back into her mind. How had it come to this? Who was behind the attack? And what were their motives? As the skirmish continued, Ilara spotted a familiar figure among the assailants. It was Marcus. He fought with a ferocity that seemed out of character for someone she had trusted. Ilara's heart sank. He had been against their alliance from the start. Could he really be orchestrating this chaos? David, look, she shouted, pointing toward Marcus. That's him. He's part of this. David's eyes widened as he spotted the traitor. We need to confront him, he said, determination blazing in his eyes. Ilara nodded, but before they could act, the battle intensified. The assailants pressed forward, and Ilara knew they had to act fast. Let's take advantage of the terrain, she urged David. If we can flank them from the side, we might be able to cut them off. Together, they led a small group of soldiers around the back of the attackers. Ilara's heart raced as adrenaline surged through her veins. This was their chance to regain control. As they approached, Ilara could hear Marcus barking orders to his men. Focus on the Xantharians. Don't let them regroup, he shouted, his voice filled with venom. It was clear he had no intention of stopping until the alliance was shattered completely. Now, Ilara commanded, and they charged forward, surprising Marcus and his group. The sudden onslaught caught the assailants off guard. Ilara fought fiercely alongside David, their movements synchronized as they worked to push the attackers back. The battle raged on, but Ilara felt a renewed sense of purpose. This was more than just a fight, it was about their future. As the chaos swirled around her, Ilara finally confronted Marcus. He stood amidst the fray, his eyes wild with anger. You don't understand, Ilara, he shouted, drawing his weapon. This alliance is a mistake. We are stronger without them. Ilara faced him, her heart heavy. You're wrong, Marcus. We can't let fear control us. This is the only way for our survival. Survival. He spat, taking a step closer. You've betrayed your own kind for these aliens. You think they'll stand by you. They'll turn on you the moment it suits them. With a swift motion, he aimed his weapon at her, but before he could pull the trigger, David lunged forward, tackling Marcus to the ground. A struggle ensued as the two grappled, their bodies entwined in a desperate fight for control. Ilara's heart pounded as she watched the struggle unfold. This was the moment she had to make a choice. Would she fight for her beliefs or let fear and betrayal win? She took a deep breath, steeling herself for what came next. Stop this madness, Ilara shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. We can't let our fears dictate our actions. We need to come together. Now. In that moment, something shifted. Soldiers on both sides paused, caught in the tension between loyalty and fear. They exchanged glances, the realization dawning on them that Marcus's anger stemmed from his own insecurities. They were all in this together, fighting for their future. With a final effort, David overpowered Marcus, pinning him to the ground. You have to see the truth, Marcus. We can't let hate and betrayal dictate our fate. As Marcus struggled beneath him, Ilara stepped forward, her heart pounding in her chest. This isn't just about you or me. It's about all of us. We can either destroy each other or stand united against those who threaten our worlds. Slowly, the fight began to die down. The assailants, realizing they were outnumbered, began to retreat. The soldiers breathed heavily, exchanging wary glances. Elara could see the fear in their eyes slowly giving way to determination. As Marcus finally stopped struggling, Elara crouched down beside him. "This is not who you are, Marcus. Don't let fear control you. We have to fight for something greater than ourselves." He looked up at her, the fire in his eyes dimming. "But how can I trust them?" he whispered, his voice shaking. "Trust comes from understanding," Elara replied softly. "Let's build that trust together." With the immediate threat gone, the soldiers began to regroup, helping one another to their feet. Elara looked around, feeling a sense of relief wash over her. They had survived, but at a cost. The wounds of betrayal still lingered, and the path forward would not be easy. In the days that followed, Elara worked tirelessly to heal the rift created by the attack. She knew it would take time for trust to be rebuilt, but she remained determined to make it happen. Together with David, she organized discussions and workshops, focusing on understanding and empathy. As Marcus began to rejoin the group, Elara watched him with cautious optimism. Perhaps in time, he could learn to trust again. The road ahead would be difficult, but as she looked at the faces of her fellow soldiers, both human and Xantharians, she felt a flicker of hope. Together, they had faced chaos and betrayal, but now they would rebuild. They would rise from the ashes of mistrust, united in their strength and determination to forge a brighter future. The alliance was not just a dream. It was their reality, and together they would protect it.